My dear friends, I welcome you all in this video tutorial. Friends, this video tutorial I have prepared only for you. This video tutorial is entitled Shakespearean Tragedy. Friends, as you know, Shakespearean tragedy is different from classical tragedies. In this video tutorial, we are going to take a review of classical tragedy, the conception of Greek tragedy, what actually Greek tragedy means, what are its characteristics, and then we will see how this form, wild rare form, is entered in England, emerged in England, and then we will see the characteristics of Shakespearean tragedy and its classification and basic objectives to study Shakespearean tragedy. What actually the purpose is to study Shakespearean tragedy. So friends, let us see.
My dear friends and my dear viewers, we are going to take a review of Shakespearean tragedy. Friends, before going towards Shakespearean tragedy, here I would like to throw light upon the contents of this video tutorial. Friends, basically we will see at the outset, we will see the objectives of this video tutorial, why actually I have prepared this Shakespearean tragedy video tutorial. Then we will see introduction, then classification of Shakespearean tragedies, and then A.C. Bradley's approach, a short analysis of A.C. Bradley's against Shakespearean tragedy, and then we will look at characteristics of Shakespearean tragedy. Friends, so the objectives of this video tutorial are as follows. After watching this video tutorial, you will be able to know the origin of Shakespearean tragedy, that how Shakespearean tragedy emerged in England. Then you will be able to understand the classification of Shakespearean tragedies. And the third objective of this video tutorial is to know the various features of Shakespearean tragedy. So friends, let us see the introduction. Here we are going to see a very short introduction. As friends, you know, drama is very ancient form of literature, which imitates life through action and speech, and is designed for representation on the stage by actors. It is a composite art. Actually, it is amalgamation of different things, different objects, different aspects are amalgamated. There are several kinds of dramas. See now, kinds of dramas. Here you will find, you might be knowing tragedy and comedy along with tragicomedy. So I would like to throw light upon some kinds of dramas: tragedy, comedy, tragicomedy, classical tragedy, romantic tragedy, revenge tragedy, and then sentimental tragedy, then heroic tragedy, and melodrama. So these are kinds of dramas and so on. So you are going to study in English literature these kinds of tragedies or types of dramas. And then friends, we will see a short look of Greek tragedy. Friends, tragedy as a genre or a literary form began in Greece. The Greek conception of tragedy was different from the modern conception. Today, tragedy is regarded as a story with an unhappy ending. But this was not the Greek conception. In the Greek language, the word tragedy means a goat song, and the word came to be used for plays because of the practice of awarding goats to winners in a dramatic contest. Friends, Western critic Aristotle, you might have heard the name of Aristotle. So he defines tragedy as it is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude through pity and fear, effecting the proper purgation of these emotions. So, here, friend, this action must be complete and of a certain magnitude. It should have proportion, and its function is catharsis, means it should arouse pity and fear. So there is no evidence that Shakespeare read Aristotle's Poetics, from which the conception of tragedy is lulled. But surprisingly enough, I would like to highlight his great tragedies are found to rest in spirit on Aristotle's definition of tragedy. So here we are moving towards Shakespearean tragedy. Friends, like Greek drama, drama in England had its origin in religion and then gradually developed through miracles or miracle plays and morality plays. Morality plays and miracle plays by university wits during the Elizabethan age. So actually, we find, British drama emerged in Elizabethan age. The Elizabethan age is one of the richest periods in the history of England, you might be knowing. It was rich in literary production of all kinds. The greatest of all Elizabethan dramatists was undoubtedly William Shakespeare, the greatest dramatist of even not only of Elizabethan period but the whole British literature. Friends, the significant thing, Ben Jonson called Shakespeare not of an age but of all ages. Please remember, Ben Jonson called Shakespeare not of an age but for all ages. Friends, he wrote 37 plays published between 1584 and 1613. Now here just look at the classification of Shakespeare's tragedies. Friends, here we find, actually Shakespearean tragedy is classified into two categories. The first one is early tragedies, which was composed in 1584 to 1599, and the second sort, great tragedies, published between or written or composed between 1599 to 1613. So here in early tragedies, it includes Titus and Andronicus, the first one, and the second one, Romeo and Juliet. And here the great tragedies, the another category of Shakespearean tragedy is, and these included Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, Timon of Athens, Antony and Cleopatra, and Coriolanus. So these are the great tragedies of William Shakespeare. Then we are moving towards A.C. Bradley's approach towards Shakespeare's tragedies. A.C. Bradley's approach to tragedy is religious and character oriented. So his approach towards Shakespeare's tragedy is religious and character oriented. His book Shakespearean Tragedy, which was published in 1904, provides a brilliant analysis of Shakespeare's major tragedies. Bradley has enunciated the violation of classical unities by Shakespeare for his benefit. So, violation of classical unities by Shakespeare is one of the significant aspects of Shakespearean tragedy, that Shakespeare did not follow the unities, classical unities. A Shakespearean tragedy, as Bradley says, is the story of suffering and calamities. The story of suffering and calamities, where befall of the hero is exceptional, unexpected, and is contrasted with his previous happiness or glory. Shakespearean tragedy is always concerned with persons of great eminence, almost always with kings or princes or great generals. So persons of great eminence are the protagonists of his tragedies, like kings, princes, and great generals. For examples, Macbeth himself is not simply a private person, he is a general of superhuman strength and valor, and so becomes afterwards the King of Scotland. So, this is why the suffering and calamity of the hero do not affect him alone. They extend far and wide beyond him. The sudden fall of such a great man produces in us a sense of the helplessness and powerlessness of man in the face of the omnipotence of fate. The sense which cannot be produced by the tragic tale of a private person and which contributes to the feelings of pity and fear, the feelings which are the hallmarks of Shakespeare's tragedies. So this is the short look or opinion of A.C. Bradley towards Shakespearean tragedy, and then we are moving towards the characteristics of Shakespearean tragedies. So friends, the first characteristics of Shakespearean tragedies is the tragic hero. Shakespearean tragedy is different from the tragedy of the Middle Age. The medieval tragedy depicts man as plaything in the hands of an inscrutable power which seems to smile on him for a little and then suddenly strikes him down though he has done nothing wrong. On the other hand, we find Shakespearean tragedies are mainly the tragedies of heroes or heroines or of both. So the architect of own tragic fate, the tragic hero in Shakespearean tragedies, we find he himself is the architect of own tragic fate. And then here we find, and this is why character is destiny dictum has often been applied to explain the tragic vision of Shakespeare. According to Bradley, Shakespeare's tragic heroes are all exceptional beings. Noble, they possess noble qualities and a marked one-sidedness, a fatal tendency, a fatal flaw, which constitutes the fatal flaw which unlocks for them the gate of tragic catastrophe. For example, Othello's childlike credulity spin out his tragic doom. Othello believed in Iago's intrigues and suspected his truthful and loyal wife Desdemona. This fault of his own nature caused the death of Desdemona and tragedy in Othello's life. And Aristotle called it hamartia or tragic flaw. So as we have seen, friends, Shakespearean tragedies are mainly the tragedies of heroes and heroines or of both. Then we will see his characters have specific factors, some abnormal condition of mind as insanity or excitable imagination resulting in hallucinations which never originates deeds of any dramatic importance, though it may influence the course of action and precipitate the fall of the hero. The supernatural, ghosts and witches. The supernatural element is not a mere illusion of the hero. The witches in Macbeth and the ghost in Hamlet have an objective existence as they are seen by others also. The supernatural elements does contribute to the action and always placed in closest relation with character. It gives a confirmation and distinct form to the inner workings of the hero's mind. For example, the ghost which Brutus sees is an expression of his sense of failure. the witches in Macbeth are symbolic of the guilt within his soul. Then chance or accident. In most of the Shakespearean tragedies, chance plays a prominent part. Such chance happenings always work against the hero and quicken his downfall. The dramatist makes only a sparing use of such accidents. Friends, the next characteristics of Shakespearean tragedy is conflict. The another significant feature of Shakespearean tragedies is conflict. The action of Shakespearean tragedy always develops through conflict, and this conflict is both external and internal. It may be between two persons. It develops, action develops through this conflict. So this conflict arises, or it may be between two persons or two groups or group of persons representing opposite interests. So between opposite ideas, opposite thoughts, opposite interests. So there is actually struggle. The hero is one of the two persons or belongs to one of the two groups, and this is the external conflict. There may be also an internal struggle in the mind of the hero between two opposite ideas, two opposite interests or thoughts which pull him in different directions. In Julius Caesar, besides the internal conflict in the mind of Brutus, even the external conflict is seen in it between the monarchists, the supporters of Julius Caesar, and the republicans, Brutus, Cassius, and others. This external conflict results in the murder of Caesar, the battle of Philippi, the defeat of the republicans, and the suicide of Brutus and Cassius. Brutus has been already struggling between his love of Caesar and his love of nation. The next characteristics of Shakespearean tragedies is regeneration. Now friends, in the manner of the great Greek tragedies, we find a sort of calm descends on the tragic hero of the Shakespearean tragedy. Though the tragic hero cannot be saved from ultimate doom, he is granted just before the end a glimpse of what might have been a conversion outlook which enables him to die with a safe and cleansed mind. A true conception of their own action, painful as that may be, sheds light into their souls. They form a fresh attitude towards life which banishes a part of the evil in their beings. In Othello, without having any regret of the death, died peacefully. Friends, Shakespeare's tragedies have some ultimate power working through the tragic hero, making him act in a particular manner and driving him to his doom. This power may be the moral power. That is just Shakespeare's tragedies ends with justice, which may be terrible, but still our sense of justice is always satisfied. But there is no poetic justice. Keep in mind, there is no poetic justice, always a sense of mystery. So there is no poetic justice in a Shakespearean tragedy, and that is why Othello and Lear suffer terribly out of all proportion to their faults. And Desdemona and Cordelia are wholly good, but yet suffered and met a tragic end. So we'll find, there is always a struggle between good and evil. And so we find a sense of mystery in Shakespeare's tragedies. Sense of mystery in Shakespearean tragedies. Thus the theme of Shakespearean tragedy is the struggle between good and evil, resulting in disturbances, sorrows, sufferings, and death. Sorrows, sufferings, and death. The typical Shakespearean tragedy is single star tragedy. The story leads up to and includes the death of the hero. At the end, the stage is often littered with corpses. It is essentially a tale of suffering and calamity conducting to death. This is what Bradley says about Shakespearean tragedies. Friends, I hope this video tutorial will help you a lot to understand the Shakespearean conception of tragedy, his characteristics of his tragedies, and A.C. Bradley's approach towards Shakespearean tragedies, and so on. So friends, in next video we will meet in another topic. Till then, thank you.
So friends, thus I hope this video tutorial would be very helpful for you to understand the Shakespearean tragedy, its classification and its characteristics in comparison with Greek conception of tragedy, also called classical tragedies. Thank you.